temple administrators for allowing us this opportunity to come here and speak on the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. I'd like to thank Amritanand Prabhu, who was instrumental in making this happen today. Would seek the blessings of His Grace Hari Vilas Prabhu. Today, I was inspired, or I am inspired, to speak on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's reverence and glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. His reverence for Srimad Bhagavatam, his glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and fortunate souls who realize that He is the most compassionate incarnation. These fortunate souls, they, with heartfelt desire, they seek shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna is Param Purushottam. There is no doubt about that. He is the Supreme Lord. This fact is established by Lord Krishna Himself. And today, what we call as the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God, He very, very clearly states that He is the source of everything. Everything comes from Him. And the fortunate souls who understand this, they take pleasure in rendering service unto Him. So Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And Krishna He manifests His compassion in the form of His pleasure potency, Srimati Radharani. In simple terms, Srila Prabhupada, he explained that Srimati Radharani is more merciful than Krishna. Simply put, that is how he would sometimes express the position of Srimati Radharani. If she were to tell Krishna that you must accept this soul as your servant, then Krishna would not be able to refuse. So that is the compassionate form, the compassionate expression of the Supreme Lord as Sri Radhika. Our acharyas have pointed out that if it were not for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then one would have never understood the deeper and finer aspects of Srimati Radharani's compassion. Radhar Mahima Prema Ratasima Jagata Janata Ke. Who would have ever understood the limits of this ocean of pleasure that one experiences? Prema Rasasima, an ocean of pleasure, limitless ocean of pleasure, satisfaction. Who would have understood if it were not for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the combined form of Radha and Krishna. The pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu they are so mesmerizing when we hear of those pastimes that even the most stone-hearted beings, their hearts melt and they hear the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Srila Prabhupada came to the West, he was very anxious to disseminate this information that he had about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was very eager to do that. So, as he was translating the Srimad Bhagavatam at one point of time, he decided that he must translate the Chaitanya Charitamrita into the English language. And he did it. And then he went on to further translate the remaining part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the remaining cantos. I believe it was the third canto, and then he translated the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And even when he was translating the Srimad Bhagavatam, the introduction to the Srimad Bhagavatam was the life and teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in brief. Because he was convinced that if we hear about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then the consciousness that has been so much distracted and it has become so contaminated by the influence of Kali Yuga, that heart, which is not qualified to be attracted towards Krishna at all, those hearts would be transformed. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, and also another literature that is very expressive about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes is the Bhakti Ratnakar. It describes about the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees. There is the information of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities. So recently we celebrated his appearance. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he performed his childhood pastimes. He performed his pastimes as a scholar, the greatest of all scholars. And then he accepted a Vaishnava Guru. And he started exhibiting his activities as a devotee of Lord Krishna. So this is Krishna himself in the mood of a devotee. And one particular pastime that has been described in very elaborately is when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed himself as being the Supreme Lord. It is called as the Sapta Prahariya Leela, the pastime that went on for 21 hours. For 21 hours, it was like devotees fasting on Gaur Purnima. For 21 hours, devotees was fasting. But they were feasting on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's beautiful form. They were drinking in the nectar of Lord Gauranga's molten golden form. through their eyes into their hearts. And they had such ecstasy. None of them realized that they could cry so much. It was like never-ending tears flowing down their eyes. And whether it is males or females, young or old, they're just drenched in tears, seeing the Aishwarya, seeing the majesty of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He sat on the throne of Vishnu in the courtyard of Srivas Thakur. And he asked all the devotees, like Srivas, he said, Srivas, glorify me. And Srivas was so happy to glorify him. They did the Abhishek of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. They did the Aarti for him. He was sitting on the throne like a regal emperor, like the Lord of the universe. And then all of a sudden, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he looks at Srivas and he says, Srivas, do you remember? And Srivas is like, I remember everything. No, Srivas, do you remember? And everyone is quiet. The Lord has spoken gently, but His words they have such an impact. Do you remember, Srivas? Everyone is quiet, peaceful, eager to hear what Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu is going to say. And Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu said, many, many years ago, you had traveled across the Ganga and you're gone to Kulia. And there, seeing the beautiful trees and the forests of this island, Kaladeep, an island of trees, especially it is banana trees, Kaladeep. That is why it is called Kaladeep. So he was looking at this beautiful expression of Mother Nature. It reminded him of Sri Vrindavan Dham. And he was just walking down one path and then taking another. And you could feel the presence of Krishna. His mind was filled with Krishna. His heart was meditating on the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani and Shri Krishna. And there was this huge assembly of people. There was an opening in this forest area. There were a few settlements, few huts, few houses. And all of a sudden there was this opening. And many people had gathered there. And they were all sitting down and listening to a great rendition of the Srimad Bhagavatam that was being spoken by a very erudite speaker and scholar of the name Devananda Pandit. Srivas Thakur felt as if Krishna had answered his prayers, or Krishna was reciprocating with him. Because you see, the Srimad Bhagavatam is not different from Krishna. And the speaker had such a wonderful, melodious voice, had such an expertise in chanting the verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And all the people there who were sitting in that assembly, they were all very excited and happy. The mood of that assembly, and already Srivas Thakur was feeling so much connection with Krishna, that inspired him, that mood inspired him to sit down in that assembly and receive Krishna within his heart in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. And because he was so receptive, he was so eager, he had such a strong desire to have Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, that the Srimad Bhagavatam, it made him have a very deep experience of ecstasy. Srivas Thakur was stunned. Every single pore of his body was exploding with pleasure, with transcendental happiness. And having received this gift from Krishna, he was so grateful that out of sheer gratitude, that Krishna is so merciful, tears started flowing down his eyes, his hair stood on end. And he felt a deep, deep separation from Krishna, and because of that separation, he started mourning. He was mourning. He was calling out for Krishna. Oh Krishna, oh Krishna, oh Krishna. And he started rolling in the dust. To some of the people who were around him, this seemed to be a disturbance. The speaker who was on the dais noticed what was happening and briefly stopped. So some of his followers, they decided that this was a time to unfriend Srivas Thakur from the Facebook account. Unfriend him. So they picked up Srivas Thakur, who was still in ecstasy and crying tears. They picked him up and a little gruffly they took him out of that assembly and dropped him in the distance. Don't come back to disturb us. And they went back to sit down and hear Harikatha. It is interesting because the Srimad Bhagavatam itself states that when one is deeply touched by Krishna, then one cries tears of ecstasy, one's hair stands on end, one dances, and sometimes being stunned, one falls on the ground and rolls in the dust, crying out for Krishna. Oh Krishna, where are you? Oh Krishna, where are you? And here the speaker had spoken on the Srimad Bhagavatam so many times. The speaker could not estimate the effect that the Srimad Bhagavatam was having. Srivas Thakur, having been dropped a little distance away from the assembly, he came back to his external consciousness because he was no longer hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. He was too far away. So he comes to his external consciousness and feeling a little sad, feeling a little morose. He just gets up and walks back to his house. Why, where is Krishna? Why did I lose connection with Krishna? That moroseness that was within his heart, that where is my Krishna? I just had him. I was there with Krishna. He was there in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. That made him feel so desperate to have Krishna again, to have that connection with Krishna again, that he went to his house. He went into his temple room and he took his Srimad Bhagavatam and he started reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And as soon as he started reading Srimad Bhagavatam in his temple room, in his own house, the moroseness that was there within his heart was gone. He again felt Krishna's presence and his mind was filled with transcendental bliss. Gauranga Mahaprabhu said, Srivas, do you remember that? And Srivas was shocked because he had never posted this on Facebook or on the social media. In fact, most of the people who were there in that assembly, they also had forgotten about it. Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu was in his 20s at that point of time, 20 plus. And this incident had happened before his birth, before his appearance. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had downloaded some information from this server much before his appearance, much before the timeline. Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. When Srivas heard that, he fell down, stunned. He had never ever spoken about this to anyone. It was just his own personal experience, and now the whole world knows, and every generation is going to speak about it. For generations to come, we would know that Srivas Thakur had such a deep attraction for the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu told him, at that time, Srivas, when you were in your temple room and you were feeling so much bereft of Krishna's association and you took the shelter of your Srimad Bhagavatam, I descended. I personally descended just to satisfy you, just to reciprocate with you. You did not know that, Srivas, but you are my dear devotee, and therefore your desire attracted me, it made me descend. And that is why you felt so much bliss. Srivas Thakur was feeling so grateful. After this pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, reciprocating with the devotees as the Supreme Lord, in pastime that is known as the Saptaprahariya Leela, the Chaitanya Bhagavat describes that one day, Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, he travelled across the Ganga. He went from Mayapur to Kulia. Kulia is how the people in those days would call Kaladeep. They would call it Kulia, Kulia Gram. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see all the trees. It reminded him of the forests of Vrindavan. And he had his devotees with him. He had so many followers and disciples, not disciples at that point of time, but his students, who had all been influenced by him and they had all been attracted to chanting the holy names of the Lord. And as he went from one forest grove of Kulia to another forest grove of Kulia, he came to a road that led down to the house of a very important personality. His name is Maheshwar Visharad Pandit. Now, have you heard of that name before? Anyone has heard that name? Yes? Maheshwar Visharad Pandit. He lived in the town of Vidyanagar. That is where this road was leading to. And Maheshwar Visharad Pandit had two sons. One of them was Vidyavachaspati. And the other was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. This was the father of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on that particular day was not going to go to the house of Maheshwar Visharad. On the way to the house of Maheshwar Visharad was the house of Devananda Pandit. Vidyanagar is the town of the scholars. So Maheshwar Visharad means he is an expert scholar. In those days, people had different surnames, I guess. The father's name was Visharad Pandit. Family name. One son was Vachaspati, the other son was Bhattacharya. Difficult to know what lineage they are. If just these are titles that they had received. Devanand Pandit was teaching his students Srimad Bhagavatam. Now 500 years ago, the teachings at institutes and schools would involve the teacher speaking out very loudly to the students, and it would be done in the open. School would generally be open rooms, Sometimes they would be within closed quarters, but generally they would be in an open courtyard. So in an open courtyard, he was having a school, he was teaching the students, he was reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, he was explaining to them the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu hearing him, Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu in a very loud voice, he turned to his followers and he said, he thinks that he knows the Srimad Bhagavatam, he thinks that he knows the meaning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He shall never ever understand even one drop of the understanding of the ocean of Srimad Bhagavatam. He shall never ever have an iota of the understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam in many, many lifetimes. For so many births, he has never understood what the Srimad Bhagavatam is about. He speaks from the Srimad Bhagavatam and he explains the Srimad Bhagavatam from the point of just knowledge or renunciation. He doesn't understand that the Srimad Bhagavatam only is speaking about pure devotional service. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of all the scriptures. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of the Vedas. The Vedas are like milk which has been turned into yogurt. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is like butter. And Shukadev Goswami has churned the butter out of this yogurt and he has offered it to Parikshit Maharaj, and Parikshit Maharaj has partaken of that butter. Shukadev Goswami perfectly knows the intent and the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. He is very dear to me. He understands that the Srimad Bhagavatam is not different from Krishna. It's not different from me. However, material scholarship will never ever help one understand the true meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from me, and I am non-different from my devotees. This person thinks that he can speak on the Bhagavatam. I might run up to him and I will tear up the very manuscript that he's reading. He's so unqualified. And saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu turned around and he started running away from the place as if he would be contaminated by that place. It was as if the place, that house of Devanand Pandit, had some lethal radiation coming out from it. Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ran away from that place. His followers, his devotees, they were shocked. What did just happen? First of all, Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu spoke about Devanand Pandit, who till today, till that date, was one of the most established speakers of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I mean, his classes would have so many people. People from far and wide would come to hear from him. Oh, the great Devananda Pandit is speaking from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let us go and hear from him. Oh, he explains everything so very lucidly. He has such in-depth knowledge of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He knows so much history of all the various aspects of Srimad Bhagavatam. He was indeed very famous. He had millions of followers on Facebook. Every day he would have Facebook live classes. Srimad Bhagavatam. The most liked page on Facebook was Devananda Pandit. Gauranga Mahaprabhu was angry and he turned around and he ran. And the devotees, by now the devotees were used to like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu changing his mood, extreme changes. When I say used to, I mean they knew exactly what they should be doing. Some of the devotees just lunged forward, they held on to him and they said, please my dear Lord, please just stay here. Please don't run away. We want to understand more. What is it that makes you so angry about Devananda Pandit? And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Srimad Bhagavatam is only about loving devotional service about Krishna. That is the message of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But if we speak on the Srimad Bhagavatam, if we learn the Srimad Bhagavatam, if we spread the message of the Srimad Bhagavatam and it is only for name and fame, or it is just for the purpose of expressing our erudition or our scholarship, or if it is for any other purpose like renunciation, then I state today that the person who speaks on the Srimad Bhagavatam and those who are in that audience, they shall all be destroyed. Now the devotees are like, okay, now you've given the conclusion. I mean, you're just running away, now you're given the conclusion. And as I said, remember what I had said? I had said that in those days when people would conduct classes, they would speak in a loud voice so that it would travel far. Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu was a trained speaker. He had his own tola, his own coaching classes, his own school for a long, long time. So he had really expressed all of this in a very loud voice, which had reached the ears of Devananda Pandit. And Devananda Pandit, he heard that. He was a little concerned, but then he said, so be it. I mean, this is just another person who's just kind of saying words. and he just let it pass. Just a few years later, the news spread through Navadvip like wildfire that that Vishwambar, the son of Jagannath Mishra, also called as Nimai Pandit, had taken sannyas at the age of 24. This was breaking news. And the reason it was breaking news was because he had the best of careers. He was loved by everyone. He had hundreds of followers. He had a beautiful family. And he had renounced all of it. So people were talking about it. And he had gone to Kantakanagar, which is called as Katwa in today's times. He had gone to Kantakanagar and he had taken sannyas from a very prominent personality. When Devanand Pandit heard about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's taking sannyas, that affected him. He realized that this person had substance. As a young boy, for certain purposes, he had taken sannyas. Now, being a scholar, he could understand that this was sincere renunciation. And remember, Devanand Pandit, I did not say that, but Devanand Pandit was very much attracted to renunciation. Hence, most of his classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam would be about sense control and renunciation. And he had hundreds and thousands of ways to explain that. But now Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who had gone, he had gone to Jagannath Puri. Devanand Pandit felt that he had missed out a chance to meet an exalted personality, a great personality. He stayed in Vidyanagar. Few years later, the entire town of Kulia was feeling great excitement. By then, the movement of Nam Sankirtan, Harinam, had become very popular. It had spread far and wide. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gauranga Mahaprabhu was in Navadvip, and after he had done that Nagar Sankirtan and he had had discussion with the Qazi, and the Qazi had given orders that the Harinam Sankirtan shall not be disturbed in my jurisdiction. That was in the jurisdiction of Mayapur. But now, by the time Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had gone to Jagannath Puri, within those years, Harinam Sankirtan had become very popular. Krishna consciousness had become very popular. And this particular day, the entire town of Kulia was very excited because Vakreshwar Pandit had come to Kulia. And who's Vakreshwar Pandit? Vakreshwar Pandit was a celebrity. And everyone was like, I need to get his autograph. Men, women, the old, the young, the children, they just ran away from their homes and they all came to Kulia, to the house of the devotee where Vakreshwar Pandit was staying. And they all went, Hari Nam, Hari Nam, Hari Nam, Hari Nam, Hari Nam, Hari Nam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And then a mridang started playing, and then a few more mridangs joined in, and along with the mridangas there was kartas, and there was a khol, and there was people were dancing and jumping up and down. And Vakreshwar Pandit comes out of the house. And everyone is like, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. And in those days they would not go like, Vakreshwar, no, that was not how they would do it. They would just say, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. They were so excited. And the kirtan, it picked up pace. The kirtan was amazing. And Vakreshwar Pandit started dancing. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would say about Vakreshwar Pandit that Vakreshwar Pandit is just like my very self. I'm like a bird. Vakreshwar Pandit is like my wing. He's inseparable from me. If I had another wing like Vakreshwar, then I could fly. Gauranga Mahaprabhu, he was the best of all dancers, Gaura Nataraj. When Vakreshwar Pandit would start dancing, Gauranga Mahaprabhu would stand still and watch him dance. That was how much he loved Vakreshwar Pandit. But Gaura Nataraj is still Gaura Nataraj. Because when Lord Gauranga would dance, the entire world would stand still and watch. The wind would stop blowing. The Ganga would stop flowing. The birds would stop chirping. They would just watch Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu dance. So Vakreshwar Pandit was an amazing dancer. And when he would dance, it was as if every pore of his body was infused and suffused with transcendental emotions. There was such potency in his dancing. Now, the crowd became greedy. Those who were a little behind others, they wanted to have more. They wanted to be right up front. They wanted to be there and watch him. So they started pushing and jostling and trying to make their way through the crowd, and then one, and then two, and then 10, and then hundreds of them were pushing and jostling around. Devanand Pandit, who was in his house, he couldn't stay still. The magnetism of the entire performance had so much spread through the islands of Navadvip that Devanand Pandit was pulled out of his house and he came to Kulia. And when people saw Devanand Pandit, they said, Panditji, Panditji. The wall parted. He found his way right up to the front. And the wall closed behind him. The wall of people. He was right there watching Sri Vakreshwar Pandit dance. And then the crowd became restless once again, and they were pushing, and they were... The circle that had formed around Vakreshwar Pandit that gave him a space to dance was becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. And that is when Devananda Pandit, he found a stick lying around. He picked it up and he told people, go back, go back, go back, go back. Oh, this is the great Panditji telling us to go back. No one dares come forward. That was the influence of Devananda Pandit. Can you imagine that? With a stick, he went around the perimeter, keeping people away, keeping the circle intact so that Vakreshwar Pandit could dance. And then Vakreshwar Pandit in his dance, as he was dancing, he became so unaware of his external circumstances that he just let himself go and started falling to the ground. And the great Devanand Pandit, he immediately slid across, that slow motion slide. He slid across the ground on his knees with his arms outstretched. And he received the fall of Vakreshwar Pandit and held on to him. And Vakreshwar Pandit was completely in a state of, internal state of consciousness. He wasn't aware of where he was, what he was doing. And the crowd was stunned. The crowd didn't know how to react to this. Vakreshwar Pandit was in the hands of Devanand Pandit. The two Pandits were there. Devanand Pandit, he lifted up the great Vakreshwar Pandit and brought him inside. And with his own upper cloth, he dusted off the dirt from the transcendental body of Vakreshwar Pandit. He wiped off his sweat. He fanned him a little. And he waited upon him till he came back to consciousness, to external consciousness. And Vakreshwar Pandit got up. He said, "Who are you?" And he introduced himself. And Vakreshwar Pandit said that, "I can see that you have a great attraction to the holy names of the Lord." And then he blessed him. And Vakreshwar Pandit went on. Days passed. Few years passed. And what happened after that? We'll continue another time. This is related to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is a transcendental literature. And the more one hears the Srimad Bhagavatam and is receptive, the symptom that we have understood the Srimad Bhagavatam is that we are not satisfied enough hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yashrinvatam rasagyanam swadu swadu pade pade. It is nectar at every step. So we will continue on with this theme, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hari Bol. Thursday evening. Okay. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर। राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर। जीवने मरने गति अरुण कालिंधीर कूले केली खदंबे रवाना। रथना भिदीरो पार भोशो भोधु जाना। राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर। श्याम घोरी अंगे धिबो छंदने रघंदा। श्यामर धुलो भोकबे हेरी मुख चंद्र। राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर। गतिया मला तिरमला धिभदोन हरगले। आधारे धुलिया धिबो कर्पूरा तंबूले। राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर। ललिता विशाखाधि झतसा के वृंदा। अज्ञान कुरी भो सेवा चरणारविंदा। कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दासेरानुदासा सेवाभिलाषा करे नरोत्तम दासा राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर जीवाने मराने गति अरो नाही मोरा जय राधा नील मधुरा नील मधुरा जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल
Do you guys know? Okay. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राज काचार्य अष्टोत्तरा शिला ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राज काचार्य इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नमाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री गोपा गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिधारी गोवर्धन की श्री मथुरा धाम की श्री वृंदावन धाम की श्री मायापुर धाम की श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की श्री तुलसी देवी की गंगा माई की यमुना देवी की भक्ति देवी की संवेद भक्त वृंद की ऑल ग्लोरीज टू असेंबल डिवोटीज all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Nice.